Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are taking a closer look at a historical reenactment scene in Poland. We are here at a medieval fair organized by Fundacja Skrzyżowa Chwały, or the Wings of Glory Foundation. It is an enormous event where hundreds of people all across Poland converge to demonstrate the functionalities of the legendary Polish Winged Hussar cavalry. The Polish Hussars had a complicated relationship with the Ruthenian Cossack troops. At times, the two formations fought side by side under the king of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, but during rebellions, the Hussars would often have to face Cossack formations on the battlefield. We will speak with the historian Dr. Krzysztof Jabłonka about the Hussar-Cossack relations.
Ważnym jest czynnikiem, w jakich relacjach politycznych husaria została użyta.
We need to remember what were the political circumstances when the Hussars were used. It was a voluntary, royal unit type. The Grand Duchy of Lithuania almost never used them. They had their own light cavalry, which was enough for them. The Hussars' main job was to fight and hunt Tatars in plain fields, and also Turks in their fortresses. They weren't that effective during the war with Sweden though, as the Swedes quickly realized that Hussars can easily be shot and destroyed with artillery. And that's exactly what happened during the so-called Little Deluge in the Battle of Gniewo. There was also another unit type, the Cossacks, which were the Hussars' both friends and foes, since they fought alongside them until their rebellion, when the roles turned around. When some of the Cossacks rebelled against the Kingdom of Poland, the Hussars were used to fight them and bring peace. What is interesting is the fact that the Cossacks rose against Poland more in the form of a professional strike than as enemies who wanted to separate themselves and create a new country. They simply wanted to have better status, to be recognized as true swordsmen and aristocracy, maybe not as noble as the Hussars, who definitely were nobility, but they wanted at least some respect. The Hussars themselves weren't even such a wealthy aristocracy. They were paid handsomely by the king for their service, but that was it, since their low numbers. There are interesting descriptions of battles between the Cossacks and the Hussars, since they knew their fighting style very well. The Cossacks, for example, knew that one of the best ways to fight Hussars was to avoid fighting in the first place. They would often try to flank them, let them get close, and then disperse to two sides and surround them. Sometimes, when there was a ceasefire, the Hussars spent time with the Cossacks, and the wealthier Cossacks tried to become Hussars. It also worked the other way around. The poorer Hussars, or those who were relieved of their duty for some petty crimes, often became Cossacks. We need to remember, the Cossacks weren't only Ukrainians. Half of them were Poles. They were often Poles from the borderlands, runaway and ambitious peasants, and a big percentage of them were the illegitimate children of the Polish aristocrats and farmer girls. They couldn't be recognized as nobility, so their only option were either to become a Cossack or to go to the United States. The Cossacks were even called the pirates of the steppe. There were some battles like the Battle of Kumiejki, where the Hussars began to fight only to stop and retreat for a while and then sign a truce, an agreement. But there was also another very interesting situation in the Battle of Konotop. It was the outcome of the first union between the Cossacks and the Kingdom of Poland. The Cossacks were finally recognized as equals, as nobles. To be noble was to be a man of honor. Poland recognized Ukraine as the third state, sharing their values and traditions. But the Muscovs were against it, so they sent a great army in response, and in 1659 there was a great battle of Konotop. Poles, Cossacks and Tatars came out victorious. These three nations wanted to remain free, and they managed to defeat the army from Moscow. Around 60,000 Muscovs were killed. Ukraine survived for some time only, since Moscow was better at negotiating with them than the Kingdom of Poland. The Cossacks got paid more by the Muscovs, and Ukraine was divided in two unequal parts. Turkey also joined in and took Kamieniec-Podolski, and then Sweden attacked from the north, creating total chaos. After these four invasions on Ukraine, the state was left in shambles. The chaos caused the enslavement of the Crimean Khanate, Ukraine, and finally, all of Poland.
Next up, we will speak with a member of a historical reenactment group specializing in Cossack history about why Cossack units were formed and why they were so determined to stay independent. Of all the faction in the reenactment, I was wondering what got you interested in the Kazakh military formation? What is special about this particular group that got you interested in being part of it?
Oh, there is much of it. The Cossacks militia, it's very interesting because there is this big military force without much of logistics. You say like with military force without participating to any country. They just lived on their land. They just go and shoot the Turks or the Polish to have loot, and they sell it. That was their style of life, and there is something magical and romantic in those times that they have choice in their arms. They wasn't peasant. They wasn't selected for the military. There wasn't there was this caste society. They were free men. They did what they want, and they were amazing fighters. We must say that there was amazing fighters. There was some very bad people among them because they were robbers, and there was like large land pirate organization. They lived from warcraft.
If you can tell me, when does the Cossack come into contact with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth?
Of course, it's like my way of thinking. There's some other. How many people? That many theories. So I think, from my wisdom, I think that for when may I start from the beginning, or may I start with the first clashes? I can say that the first clashes appeared because you see, when the people arrived on the Ukraine, when the people, not Cossacks then, but arrived, they were free men, they ran it away. There was some nobility which was outlawed, and they say you see, that tree to that tree, this is my land, and from that tree to that tree, there is your land.
That's yours.
And they live like that from tens of years. Their sons came, daughters, and they think that their land was there. Meantime, in the Polish Commonwealth, some nobleman goes to the king and said, I want this land. It's no one, there's no papers on this land. I want it. So pay me or do me a favor. And he comes with military on this land,
so
on the land of Ukraine, and he says, you are now working for me. This is my land now. And you say, why?
Yeah, exactly.
It was my father, my grandfather, and so on. And he says, but you don't have any paper on that this land is your territory. There is my paper, and this is the law. This is now my territory. So this was the first problem about the peasants. The peasants were very bad treated in the Ukraine. There are some historical data, varied that one noble was wanted wife of one of the peasants, and he didn't give it to him, so he killed him. And always when you work for someone on the field, you gave it 1/4 of wheat, one cow from them. This was the biggest problem because the nobility took too much from them. In Poland, if you compare the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth peasant from the middle of the territory of Poland to the Ukrainian peasant, it's like heaven and earth. Heaven and hell, sorry. So they was very weak and very hungry. They didn't have the morale to work on the fields. And the second problem is the Cossacks, the Knights of Orthodox Christianity. They treat themselves as a free man, as the knights with honor, and they fought against the Turks for there was a century. And now someone goes to them and say, hey, you go work on my field. You are a peasant now. So then started the clashes. The people didn't want to to be a peasants. They was
Remain a free man.
yes.
Said.
The nobility fought with them. With sometimes they won, sometimes they lose, and then the biggest uprising starts, and that's the part where Ukrainian people, not Ukrainians by then, but they were Poles by then,
Right.
Started to hate between. But I have only one thing more to say.
Right.
The Cossacks, the Zaporožian Cossacks, they really cared and loved the Polish-Lithuanian king. They hated not the Polish, but they hated the nobility that took them under the boot.
Right.
No, when there was a battle at I don't remember correctly, but it was at Żółte Wody, Yellow Waters.
Okay.
There was a battle, and in the time of the battle, the Polish king Władysław died. So Cossacks stopped military for a day. They stopped military actions to mourn the king.
Wow.
They listened to Polish king. They didn't want the nobility. Especially the Wiśniowiecki, the nobles who came to Ukraine and beat them and starved them, but they loved the king.
As we have seen today, there were plenty of challenges and adversaries facing the Polish-Lithuanian army in the 17th century. But with enough preparation, superior tactics, and armory, the legendary Polish Winged Hussars were able to secure plenty of victories in pivotal battles, ones such as the Battle of Kirchholm, Klusino, and most importantly and famously, the Battle of Vienna. That's it for today. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.